Hello, beautiful people. Today was a fantastic day when it came to Palantir. We finished off the day $15.65. We had an upgrade from Bank of America from $13 to $18. And all in all, I believe we're up like 150% year to date. Now, the valuation is getting a bit high, but we are growing into that valuation. What do I mean by that? You don't know what is behind Palantir. That AIP is like a Pandora's box in a great way. It just opened everything up, and Palantir is going to suck in all of the business. At least that's what I think is going to happen. And remember, to use AIP, you need Palantir Foundry, so it's a double whammy. And at an average price of just north of $1 million for a Palantir Foundry contract, you now have Palantir Foundry for $1 million, and now you will have a dedicated AIP contract as well. Left and right, companies are coming out talking about artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence. Not just Palantir, across the entire board, across the entire tech sector. Even as early as 2 months ago, it sucked to cover Palantir. Nobody wanted to hear about Palantir, except for our community, of course, right? But you were chastised. Everybody made fun of you. You were ridiculed. You were like a class clown if you spoke about Palantir. But we really knew what was going on in the Palantir community. Now, Palantir is all over the place, right? Palantir bandwagon. You have people making YouTube videos, large YouTubers, and I'm so glad that they're making it. They might not be able to explain Palantir. They might be terrible investors, so on and so forth. But by all means, I wish more and more YouTubers are going to be talking about Palantir, especially the ones that have 100,000, 500,000, a million subscribers, so on and so forth. Kathy Wood did a U-turn. She ended up buying millions of shares of Palantir, like 5.5 or 6 million shares of Palantir. At one point, she actually owned close to 40 million shares of Palantir. Palantir is the entire rage of the town. But there are some people that stuck with Palantir through thick and thin and spoke about Palantir for a long time. For example, Keith Fitzgerald. He was on the show, Ahmed's show. Shout out to him. He was talking about Palantir for quite a while before it was cool to be a Palantir head. I was talking about Palantir since May of 2021 before it was cool to be a Palantir head. Yahoo Finance speaks about Palantir for a little while. They're giving us some love. There's that young white dude on CNBC who absolutely loves Palantir, always does interviews with Dr. Alex Karp. I forgot his name off the top of my head. Shit, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Even Jim Cramer is turning the corner. And maybe, just maybe, the plague of Jim Cramer, the curse of Jim Cramer is gone when it comes to Palantir. Long story short, it is now cool to talk about Palantir. There is a analyst, there is a network that talks about Palantir and actually gives us a lot of love, and that's who I want to cover today. TD Ameritrade has been covering Palantir for a little bit, basically on the last run-up, but they are consistently covering us, so I am super happy about that. And TD Ameritrade is a freaking huge, huge platform. In general, a lot of people trade on that platform, so this is definitely a good thing. In today's video, I want to cover two videos. I'm going to do a reaction video to a TD Ameritrade. One is literally calling Palantir the pioneer of artificial intelligence, and another video is literally saying that Palantir is the AI play to have in today's day and age. And both of these videos came out back to back. One is around 6 or 7 minutes, and the other one is around 15 minutes. So if you guys want a really cool reaction video, I'll try to respond when I see some, entry point, and then definitely stick with me. Shout out to everybody that's been in the Palantir community for quite a while. Shout out to people that bought at $25. Shout out to people that bought at $6 or $7. Shout out to everybody that bought in between or even higher. At the end of the day, this ride is just beginning. If I am right, and I could be completely wrong, but if I am right, and a lot of smarter people than me also are right, if we are correct, this is just the beginning of a revolution. This revolution is being fueled by artificial intelligence, and Palantir is at the forefront of this revolution. I know it sounds crazy, but 2 months ago, would you say that the price of Palantir at $15, would you sound crazy? But lo and behold, we have $15. I know it sounds crazy to say Palantir can hit $100 or $500 or $400 or $300. I'm not thinking about that. But if Palantir knocks it out of the park for the next earnings, and let's say their earnings come in at 20%, just 20, we don't need much more than that, just 20% in the next quarter, I guarantee you the price is going to keep going up because they're guiding for 12 or 13%. I am not saying the next quarter is going to be, all in all, like that's what's going to push. But I do believe towards the end of this year, Q3 and Q4, which I've been saying literally a year ago, I'm going to give Palantir time until the end of 23 to actually grow into their shoes. And if I'm right, then Palantir is going to absolutely shellac, destroy, decimate earnings. And when that happens, all of a sudden Palantir is no longer overvalued. Palantir is undervalued once again. We have absolutely massive news when it comes to Palantir. Not once a day, not twice a day, but literally throughout the day. It's to the point where I'm scared to make a video because I'm not getting any traction on them because there's so much news and I'm oversaturating. But you know what? I don't give a flying fizzle. At the end of the day, I do it for my subscribers, I do it for myself, and I do it for my family. Guys, let's do this reaction video. Before I go any further, I have my link to my Twitter down below, at Adam Bergmans, MM. And I have a link to channel membership down below. It's $3 a month if you sign up to channel membership. This allows me to buy myself a cup of coffee. And as you can see, the coffee says it's all good. So if you want to support the channel and you don't want to be cheap, $3 a month, I would appreciate it. And if you don't want to support the channel, I appreciate it altogether. Please just follow me on Twitter. All jokes aside, there's no need to support me. But if you do want to, let's go over to my desk and let's do this reaction video.
George Sillis is here for the disruptors here at this point because we're going to take a look at Palantir. George, so far, I mean, before I get to it, we talked about Carnival, that's up 80%, AMD up 97%, Google and Adobe up 38%. We're going to look at Oracle for after the bell, that's up 43%. And Palantir is outpacing all of them. It's up 140% this year. I mean, this is some year. What is going on and what are you watching?
Well, I think the whole common theme, Nicole, at least for the names you mentioned, AMD, NVIDIA, SMCI is another word, Supermicro, that stock has been up about 200%. It's really affiliated with artificial intelligence, and that's what's going on with Palantir. It's actually one of the sort of original pioneers of predictive intelligence and data analysis.
That's true. They are a pioneer. So Palantir has been in this artificial intelligence space for 20 years, and people are failing to realize this. If I'm not mistaken, Palantir only really got into the commercial sector in 2017. For anybody wondering why is Palantir just now starting to be profitable, they were not always in the commercial sector. They were actually funded by the United States venture capitalist fund, which I'm sure this guy is going to talk about. So let's keep going.
This is for the Department of Defense. In other words, its roots are really founded for military use. And so what's going on with Palantir is the company has evolved as a public company for the last couple of years. They're beginning to deploy their technologies, which were basically founded by public sector financing for the DoD. They're actually moving it more so into the private sector, and artificial intelligence is becoming ubiquitous across all industry groups. It doesn't matter if it's the medical industry group or finance or industrials, mining, infrastructure. We also know, of course, it's very much so in the technology realm, but it's going to become something that's used across the board in every industry group. And Palantir, again, is one of these companies that's a pioneer of it. Now, looking at the stock in the last year, it's done a tremendous job in terms of price action. Some of the analysts continue to be positive or constructive on the stock versus Bank of America increased their price target from 13 to 18, and they actually made...
Shout out to Bank of America, one of, if not the only analyst who's getting it right when it comes to Palantir. Big up to Bank of America. I appreciate them.
A buy rating on the name. What's going on with Palantir is that they've got so much business affiliated with the U.S. government that actually is very supportive for them to actually continue to deploy their technologies for business intelligence in the private sector. So I think this is a situation where if you look at in the last month or so, they continue to gain contracts from, for instance, the Special Operations Command Center of the U.S. Air Force. They got about a $565 million contract that was generated about a week and a half ago in terms of the news. Their sales are about $2 billion a year, and they continue to grow. The company is also guiding for sales growth about 30% compound annually through 2025. So we can see the stock has made a nice move. We can see also they are generating higher sales growth on a forward basis. And this is certainly a company that's been very interesting from the standpoint of the AI movements we've seen, of course, in the last, let's call it the year-to-date basis for sure. Looking at Palantir, though, you have to consider some of the elements behind profitability. They are expected to be full year profitable, at least on an adjusted basis, with about 21 cents a share, but it's still trading around 71 times forward earnings and price to sales at around 15 times. So one would say maybe it's getting a little ahead of itself. There's a possibility of the stock pulling back a little bit, but nonetheless, it's been a huge winner this year, and it's a very popular stock, especially as they continue to deploy their technologies in the private sector.
So the main thing to understand is nobody knows if it's overvalued, undervalued, or on par. At the end of the day, we only know what's on the surface level. We don't know what's behind the surface level. We just know the tip. We don't know what's in the package, if you know what I mean. So as long as Palantir grows into their shoes, Palantir is not going to be overvalued. But I hear what this guy is saying, and everything he says so far makes sense.
All right. I mean, and also just how far ahead. I was just reading that note, just how they're, 5 years ahead, and it just really shows the footprint that they have. In the meantime, now with the stock running up, the B of A commentary raising the price target. I saw they raised it to $18, as you said. How would you go about an example trade for this, and what period of time?
Yeah, so good question. So looking at it, you can see there's a lot of implied volatility in the name. There's a lot of short interest. It's around 9% of the free float. So with that said, the overall markets look like they may end up stalling out at the 4,300. We got the Fed meeting this week and so forth, and the CPI numbers. So with that said, we could see some weakness, at least in the near term, but overall, we could also see the trend continue. So one way to play some near-term weakness, but also a trend continuation, if that's the case. If for Palantir is to place a long call diagonal spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to sell the July contract, the $18 strike price. These are calls now. And then we're going to actually use those proceeds to finance the acquisition of the in-the-money $14 calls for August. So altogether, this would cost a trader about $2 a share or $200 a contract. So if you think there's going to be at least some near-term weakness, and of course the implied volatility is extremely high in the near-term options, but you also think that there'll be a longer-term continuation pattern here for Palantir, as well as some of the other AI stocks. This is certainly a trade you could consider. Now, it does capitalize on the potential for, again, some short-term weakness. That's ideally where you would see that short near-term call erode in value. If that's the case, you may end up wanting to close that call and, of course, leave the August in the money call unbounded. In other words, unbounded in terms of profitability.
Thank you for that. We really value your, presence here, giving us these example trades each day. George Sillis, truly appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, so that was the first video from TD Ameritrade. There's actually a longer one, which is calling Palantir one of the top 3 artificial intelligence plays that you can personally get into today. By the way, I follow my man Jesse Dow. You are going to see this is his Twitter right here. Definitely follow him on Twitter. The guy made over $500,000 in around a month when it comes to Palantir. He's currently up like 150,000 on the SoFi options play in the last 3 weeks or so. And I'm actually following him on his hood play. Not financial advice. It is what it is. But I will be asking Jesse what he thinks about this guy's play on Palantir for options. And if Jesse co-signs it, I might just follow that play. I might even do that play just for shits and giggles. Let's listen to the second TD Ameritrade coverage of Palantir. I absolutely love it. Shout out to TD Ameritrade for actually covering Palantir.
Yeah, okay. Up next, Palantir. We're going to be talking about this later as well in the show, so I'm glad we're featuring it here and giving us the setup. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. There has certainly been a lot of talk about Palantir, and it always has these analyst upgrades while I'm thinking of them, which is fine. So they're positioned to be a dominant provider within generative AI. And there's also, when you're thinking about the providers of AI, or that they're going to offer solutions to those broader companies. So there's a heightened need to upgrade military and intelligence capabilities. And this presents substantial potential for Palantir. They have an advantage. They have supporting architecture. The recent Bank of America report report actually stated that they're about 5 years ahead of the closest company in terms of generative AI. And that's something that's warranted. Their research analysts are absolutely fantastic. And their launch of their artificial intelligence platform, it's generate increased of inbound interest. And what we've learned going through this AI hype, that not only is it the value of your product, it's absolutely marketing of that product that is absolutely helpful. So when I see something that says increased inbound interest, then that should translate positively over into earnings. You can have the best product.
All right, that's one of the main things that's happening with Palantir right now. For the longest time, Palantir did not play the game. They were playing checkers while it seems like everybody was playing chess, but now Palantir is literally playing 4D chess. Palantir has absolutely 100% shifted marketing, public relations, and perception around artificial intelligence. You see, they made the AIP platform liquidly split like that. Why? They already had the technology for LLMs, large language models, machine learning, AIs. They've been doing this for 20 years. They're just, pivoting to market and showcase this new AIP artificial intelligence platform. Also, Dr. Alice Karp around 4 or 5 months ago hired a public speaking coach, and I'm sure that public speaking coach also goes hand in hand with a coach for public relations and marketing. So I'm glad that other people outside of the Palantir community are seeing exactly what Palantir is doing, and they're actually finally getting some recognition that they're playing the game.
If you don't have broader adoption, we need revenue. So that's something that I think is something to watch, and certainly warrants that demonstrated power of generative AI and the subsequent analyst upgrades that we've been receiving.
All right, PLTR. Rick, your thoughts on the chart?
Most interesting chart of the day, I think, hands down here, because we can see, once again, based on our volume profile, much of the trading has taken place in this name around the $8 mark for the past year. Price was really concentrated around that level, wasn't really making too big of a move beyond the $10 mark there. But with last earnings, we can see right here, just a rocketing upward here, taking us more than doubling in terms of our price here since we had the start of this move upward, a very steep, narrow trend line going upward along those lows. And once again, using our standard deviation channels, we can assess how extreme this move is relative to its own recent history. That's what standard deviation is really telling us. If price is at a fair value level, which is our blue linear regression line here, or if it's at a stretched extreme value, which is where we are right now here. And if you recall, on our first stock, I said stocks, just anecdotally observing, they tend to stay between +2 and -2 standard deviations. Well, today, we're finding Palantir between +3 and +4 standard deviations. So a really notable move in terms of its strength and intensity here. Now, once again, we can see we've got this volume node forming here, suggesting price acceptance. Look for our two standard deviation lines, are +3 and +4 lines, to provide support and resistance here near about 1450 and 1630 respectively here. One other thing to note, RSI is very strong here. So momentum is still in the overbought area. We're not really seeing any kind of give back here, despite that price has been consolidating a little bit here. It kind of speaks to the volatility that we've seen. These candles, their shadows have been very long, suggesting aggressive selling up near those highs, but we're still kind of grinding upward here. So definitely an interesting chart. Beware of something that's making a strong move. It can keep going. And if you're trying to do a mean reversion play, it can be a rough road if things don't go your way.
All right. Thank you, Rick Ducato. Awesome on the charts today. Great to see you. Thank you for all three of those. And Jessica, before I let you go, would you like to make a projection on what the Fed may or may not do?
Sounds like they're going to skip. However, when we check the CME tool, it seems to change constantly. So I'm really more dependent on what they say. I think that's the most important aspect of this meeting this week.
All right, guys. I really enjoyed this TD Ameritrade. I really enjoyed that they're giving a spotlight to Palantir, and not only one spotlight, but two spotlights. I enjoyed what Jessica had to say about Palantir, basically giving a basic overview of Palantir so that people can understand what exactly Palantir does, what exactly Palantir is. And I like this dude with the charts. Again, I listen to my man Jesse when it comes to charts. I can't stress that enough. Shout out to Jesse on 6,000 followers on Twitter. Pretty soon, Big Homie is going to have 100,000 plus subscribers on Twitter within the next 12 months. That is my prediction. Now, for Palantir, as you hear this guy with the charts, he was saying that the price strength is right around the mid 14s to low 16s range. So we have some, room to grow. Now, I'm not a technical guy. I'm not a charts guy. All I know is that the volume is going up, and I know that Palantir is like chugging along, chugga, 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 and it still has a lot of room to grow. Hopefully tomorrow there's going to be more momentum because the Fed is going to halt raising rates. Also, at the end of this year, after 4 positive quarters of revenue, of GAAP profitability, we already had 2, we need 2 more. We will probably be accepted to the S&P 500 in early of 2024, like accepted and actually get in there, which is going to keep driving the price of Palantir up as long as Palantir can drive up revenue and as long as Dr. Alex Karp is not lying and there is such demand for AIP. As he says there was more demand in a single month for AIP than the entire year for their other products. He said this is an unprecedented demand for this product line. Tomorrow morning, I will be covering the CPI, so please join me on a live. On Wednesday, I will be doing the PPI live. I will be doing FOMC meeting live. I also will be doing a SoFi shareholders meeting live. If you guys want, follow me on Twitter, and if you guys want to buy me a cup of coffee for $3, the link is down below. Thank you very much. Have a great day.